Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another week with us here at Apollo Racing Club. Tonight we are going to be racing at WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway. It's going to be a fun one tonight. We got 21 cars on the grid, and we are just getting ready to start qualifying session here. As always, I am Matt McAdams, bringing you the action here from the commentary booth, and joining me this week is none other than Thomas Castellani. Tom, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad, Matt. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this race in sunny California. It's a track that I really enjoy, and it does tend to be pretty spicy given that all the dust makes it a reasonably low grip track compared to others.
Yeah, and given some of the challenging corners that this track is world famous for, it definitely can lead to some dicey racing conditions, and the practice session was certainly an indicator that that is what we're going to be looking at tonight. A lot of pace, very similar to each other, especially among the race leaders. They were basically nipping at each other's heels they were basically fighting over tenths of a second. So we should have some exciting racing on our hands tonight. Let's go ahead and we're going to tune over to the cameras where we're going to watch Andrew Sear come around the last couple of bends to start his first lap here at Laguna Seca. Going to come around the final corner, and we're going to start to get an idea of what the pace is going to look like today.
Yeah, Andrew was the top car in free practice. I think the quickest time we saw there was 1:22.037, so that's his benchmark. Hopefully he can meet or surpass that in the quali session today.
We'll see. He's definitely got the pace to do it. In fact, last Sunday he was racing with Delta Racing League. Ooh, and he actually dips his tire out on the sand there. It's not going to be great for his lap time. We'll see what happens with that by the end of the lap. But at Circuit of the Americas with Delta Racing League, had a very, very interesting race there. Qualifying actually is what made the race so interesting. It started as a dry qualifying, and in typical Assetto Corsa fashion, about 20 seconds later started raining. And Andrew was first one out of the pits on the slicks and was the only one able to set a qualifying time before the track fully got wet and slowed down a lot. So qualified P1 and then battled with the rest of the field to eventually end, I believe it was P4. I'll have to go check those standings again, but he had an exciting race Sunday, and if he's got the pace here that he's going to put on display like he did in practice, I think he's going to have an exciting race here as well. And that is going to be our first lap time. It's going to be a 1:23.872 out of Andrew Sear. We're going to see what the rest of the field's able to do. And yep, that mistake already starting to show its teeth with Tony Giordano coming across the line with a slightly faster lap time. It's also worth noting that it does take a lap or two to get these tires completely up into their operating window, their optimal window, excuse me. So we'll be probably starting to see the real lap times come out on laps 2 and 3. Matt Byrne, the first one to dip into the 122s with a 1:22.9. And I just realized that it's not showing that to you guys. Let me fix that. There we go. Oh, don't love that. We'll come back to that. Where was that? Best lap. We'll hide that for now. Andrew Sear right now with the purple border around his name on the leaderboard. That does mean that he is on pace to set the fastest lap of the session. And it's looking like he's going to keep it going. With almost a second and a half in the Delta, he is going to be looking well into the 122s. And there it is, a 1:22.53 is now the time to beat. Matt Byrne hanging on to that right now. Looks like he's got him in Sector 2, but Andrew Sear holding the purple for Sector 3. Just a hair off of his pace in Sector 1. So really, if we see a pretty big improvement on Sector 3 from Matt Byrne, that will be first place for him, but we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look over at, here. Ice Tin, almost 7/10 of a second up on his previous lap. He's able to hang on to it, 3/4 of a second up now. Looking at maybe 8/10 coming out of the exit here. And he continues to find time and maybe a little bit of a loose exit there, but we'll still see an improvement. Sets a 1:23.8, his new personal best. Gains a couple positions in doing so. Let's take a look over at Andrew Jaski. I just clicked through a bunch of drivers, but Andrew Jaski just found a bunch of time there, and now almost a second up in the Delta. Is going to come up against some traffic. Ooh! Really gets on the inside of that curb and unsettles that BMW, but he's able to get it back under control and keep the Delta in the green. Won't be the improvement he's looking for, but he also knows he's got a real easy way to find time on the next lap. We'll see where this puts him. Gains 2 positions with a 1:24.057 out of Andrew Jaski there. Andre Lloyd also on a bit of a ripper. Oh, as Felix Palant comes across the line with the PB. And I'm trying to move, people are moving their names. There we go, Andre Lloyd now 8/10 in the Delta here. Comes across the line. And he is going to set a 1:23.85, moving him up into 9th place. Andrew Sear on another ripper right now. Gonna set another personal best if he's able to close it up. Let's take a look over at Felix Palant though, 3/10 in the Delta. Coming around, looks like, yep, that's turn 4. It was a very tricky corner, that one. It takes a lot. I like to call those patience corners, where really you kind of just got to nurse the car around it before you can get on the throttle. Because if you hit it right at the apex and your line isn't perfect, you're going to be making sandcastles out on the runoff there. What would you say, if we were to exclude the corkscrew, Tom, what would you say is the most challenging corner here at Laguna Seca? Oh, hold on one second. We may be having some technical difficulties. Aha, we did. It's because he hasn't been here. Welcome back to the booth, Tom. How was your bathroom break? Sorry about that. I was wondering why you weren't saying anything.
Well, I'm not superstitious, but I have noticed that the only times I ever have technical issues are if I'm doing well in a race or we're in the middle of a stream.
Yeah, it's never easy. But here's a question for you. Excluding the corkscrew, what would you say is the most challenging corner here at Laguna Seca?
For me, it has to be the first of the 2 left-handers before you reach the corkscrew. You kind of have to hit the apex late enough that you don't reach the exit curb too soon, because if you do, it's just so slippery there, it spits the car out. So I would expect to see 1 or 2 incidents of that nature at that corner, just because it's a classic.
Yeah, I'd say you've got good instincts on that one, because it's actually the one I was highlighting as one of the more challenging corners. So yeah, we're in agreement there. But right now, let's take a look. I got a little distracted there, but let's take a look over at Stephen Buckley here. 4/10 up on their previous lap. Let's see, Ford almost a half second now coming around the corner, up to 6/10 as they come into the corkscrew. Up a second now.
You can see the track limits are reasonably forgiving at the corkscrew. You need to be able to straighten the car out quite soon, otherwise it unsettles if you have steering. Keep the steering to the left for too long into the downhill.
He is going to cross the line with 8/10 improvement, moving him up into 15th place with a 1:24.377 as their new personal best. And they're going to go ahead and have that back to the pits and maybe make some adjustments to the setup, get back out on the track, see what they can do next lap. Billy Carlin currently looking to improve here, as is Nick Schwartz, now up a second in the Delta I see over there on the side. Just found a lot of time somewhere. Let's take a look at where they're at, coming around the final bend right now. 1.1 seconds. Oh, just loses a little bit of it on the exit, but they're going to continue to gain before they get to the start-finish line. Will they see 1.1 seconds improvement? No, but they will gain 7 positions, moving up into 7th place with a 122.977. Let's go ahead and, oh, never mind, we're not going to go there. Let's take a look at Mellon Pitch. Coming into the last bend here with 0.2 in the improvement. Let's see if he hangs on to it on the exit. Looks like he's going to. And continuing to find time up the hill. Crosses the line. Going to move up a position into 11th place with a 123.615. Just to give you guys an idea of where we're at versus the leader. There are the splits there. Their personal best and their session best relative to first. As we can see, Andrew Sear got a lot of pace here. The rest of the pack pretty close to one another.
Yeah, just between 10th and 11th is 1/10 there. It's sort of 1/10, almost all the way down. 4th, 5th, and 6th are all in all 9/10 down with various different levels of fidelity there from Andrew. Randall actually just improved his time, I believe.
He did, moving himself up into 4th place there. Just set a 122.6. Just a 10th off from Jeff Spangler up in 3rd place. So not a lot of improvement needed for a podium start here at Laguna Seca for Randall.
Would you say this is, I think it's common knowledge that this is quite a strong track for the Porsche if you are capable of reining it in?
I would say, yeah, especially its ability to accelerate from a low speed or mid speed exit really does help here at Laguna Seca. There's not a lot of straights long enough to where its top speed hinders it at all, really. It's not like if we're at Spa with the Kemmel Straight or the straight on Paul Ricard for some extreme examples. That and its ability to rotate pretty well definitely helps itself a lot here. And looking at the manufacturers, I mean, we do have, let's see, 1st place is a Porsche and 4th place is a Porsche. So that might be a fast car here. I'll be, you know, it's my Ferrari fan showing and not seeing any on the grid tonight. But that is also a very good car here.
Yeah. Other than lack of Ferraris, it's still a pretty good spread. Obviously, these are the cars that everyone picked at the beginning of the season. So you can't really pick your car depending on the track. You have to take something and stick with it. So a few Porsches, and almost as though he heard you, we just had Julio Ortiz join, and he is driving the Ferrari.
Hey, my boy. Good, we'll have some Ferrari action out there. Little Italian mid-speed marvel of engineering. Let's see here, who is on, actually Michael Randall going out and looking for that extra 10th. See what he's able to come up with, coming around turn 4 right now. And it does look like he's gonna find it. And if he's able to continue to find time like he is, he does currently have the pace to take 3rd place away from Jeff Spangler. Let's go ahead and actually we can throw that up there. Well, now that's very interesting there. What is going? Oh, that's because it's showing his last lap, not his best lap. Let me fix that. Professional streamer, everybody. Let's do their fastest lap. There we go. That makes a little more sense.
Matt Byrne and the McLaren, obviously, and that is certainly a car that doesn't deal with curbs especially well compared to others. And the sausage curbs are pretty brutal here, as with a lot of tracks. it can put you right offline and cause a lot of damage very, very quickly.
Yeah, that car is very aero dependent, and its suspension doesn't like to work very hard. So yeah, curbs can unsettle it, and then once you've unsettled that, your aero falls apart, and then that thing is just gone on you. That said, it is a rocket ship of a car in the current BOP, so it will be taking advantage of that, I'm sure, on the few straights that exist here at Laguna Seca. It'll be interesting to see how it's able to keep up with some of the more advantaged cars here, although it is certainly no slouch, especially with Matt Byrne at the wheel. Max Sunkenlap going to finish qualifying here for us. Runs it a little bit wide and gives us a bit of a pirouette to end the session on an exciting note.
It's all or nothing.
Exactly. All right, we're gonna wait for the session to tick over, and then I'll get us over to the cameras. I notice if I don't do it the right way, it gets stuck because Kunos.
Yes.
What do we wait? Come on.
Also noticed.
Oh, it's waiting on it. There's a car waiting a tow out on the field. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and let's do our little circuit wire grid walk here that we like to do at Apollo Racing Club. We do allow fully custom liveries, so it's just a little opportunity for everybody to get to see the hard work that the drivers put into their cars. We've got Andrew Sear in first place, Matt Byrne in second, Jeff Spangler in third, Michael Randall in fourth, Tony Giordano in the Audi there in fifth. It'll be Daniel Lund in sixth, Daniel Wright in seventh, Nick Schwartz in eighth, Tommy Kogan in ninth, Melon Pitch there to round out the top 10, followed by Andre Lloyd in 11th, Andrew Jaski qualifying P12, Ice Tin in 13th, Felix Palant in 14th, Max Sunkenlap in 15th, excuse me, Stephen Buckley in 16th, Billy Carlin, P17, Mark, what did we decide on? Was it Grunhuizen? Yeah, you said it right, I didn't. And P18, Cody Barrett, P19, Eric Gottsacker, P20, Paul Valenstein in, excuse me, in P21, and Julio Ortiz, our late shower in the Ferrari, to finish off this grid. Not having time to get a qualifying lap, it is going to be up to them to decide how this race goes for them. Got a minute and 38 before we finish, or start our formation lap here at Laguna Seca. It's looking like it's going to be a nice day out there. No rain in the forecast. It's nice and warm, a gentle breeze, and just look at that sky, folks. And having been there in person, I can confirm it does get that pretty here at Laguna Seca. In fact, one of my favorite places to watch the race is right up there at the top of that hill. You can see pretty much the entirety of the first little bit of the circuit, and it really is something to behold.
Yeah, it does look beautiful. Not a place that it rains especially often, I gather. But as I said earlier on, the dust that blows onto the track, and I think Kunos have tried to replicate that, does sort of limit the adhesion a little bit, and it can be challenging. Be really challenging.
Yeah, especially if that breeze picks up. They will be experiencing that, I'm sure. Right now, just a gentle breeze, 1 kilometer an hour, really not much to really even notice, but it is there, and if it gets windier, we might see some of that dust spill over onto the track. It's going to be an interesting race. Looking at the qualifying times, it does look like Andrew Sear is the favorite to win right now. But that said, like we were stating earlier, the rest of the grid's pretty on top of each other, with Michael Randall and Jeff Spangler definitely going to be interesting to see who finishes third out of the two of them, within a tenth of one another during qualifying session. There's a couple of others further back in the grid that are in a similar situation. So we'll be keeping our eye on a couple of battles here. And with it being Laguna Seca, not a particularly long track, we certainly will be seeing some battles today.
It can yo-yo quite quickly if you have some good laps and then, 1 or 2 bad laps. This is the sort of circuit where you can see people fluctuate a little bit, and the field sort of rubber bands. The first turn is the kink on the straight that's not straight. So if we're being technical, turn 2 and into turn 3, which you take sort of as a double apex, you'll see as we saw in qualifying, the cars take the first apex and then we'll run it a little deeper in and then bring it back for that second apex. It's going to be really interesting to see if everyone can hold. You can keep 2 cars side by side through there, but obviously there will be some compression. So fingers crossed everyone there gets through nice and clean.
Yeah, and it's, you know, of all the turn 1s on the schedule for this this season, I would say this one's probably one of the safer ones, but what'll be really interesting is to see how the corkscrew goes on lap 1. Because I think if there's going to be a major incident, it's probably going to happen there.
You really have to have all the cars lined and stand by the corkscrew, and I think I just saw someone go off track and potentially into the barrier already.
That's not good.
I think it was Eric Seca. I think he might have got away with it.
Let's take a look at the car. Front of it looks okay. The back of it looks okay. I think he's okay.
Yeah.
All right, he got lucky.
Yeah.
You love to see it. But as the race leaders begin to line up a double file and round the last 2 corners here at Laguna Seca, we will be finishing our formation lap and waiting for the green flags to wave and get this race underway. I want to go ahead and say thank you to the organizers for putting this together. Thank you to all the drivers for showing up. We just got 2 more races in the season. We still got 22 cars on the grid here at Laguna Seca tonight, and it is going to be an exciting race. Everything is pointing to that being the case. But as for us here, now we just wait for the green flag to wave and we can get this race underway. And there we go, the green lights are lit and Andrew Sear begins the charge. Looks like Jeff Spangler gets a fantastic start right off the grid, jumping Matt Byrne there in second place to move himself up into P3. We'll see what he hangs on to coming down into turn 1. There's contact between the Audi behind Jeff Spangler, and that is going to cause a much larger pileup. Oh my goodness. We've got cars all over the place back there. They're still hitting each other. And that is not the way we want to watch a race start. Although it was dramatic and fun to watch, that is going to mess up a lot of people's races right at the very start there. Andrew Sear and Matt Byrne definitely going to be glad to have gotten away from the grid on that one and get their clean escape to continue the race. Let's
think that for sure. I think there's a lot of door banging, but it seems as though there wasn't any really major contact, so hopefully, you know, there's not a lot of damage on the cars and it won't affect people too much.
That's certainly going to be the hope. Because it definitely started as a little rubbing his racing, but it turned into a lot worse than that. We've got another caution flag waving. Let's take a look over here. Doesn't look like it may have just been light contact.
Oh, Tony Giordano's down now. Up front, Andrew Sear has led away, and Matt Byrne is following reasonably closely, followed by Randall and Daniel Lund. So that top 4, I guess, looking to break away and just stay in contact with one another. And Jeff Spangler does look to have recovered reasonably well. He's sitting in 6th place, and he obviously knows that he's got the pace. Probably a little bit of rear end damage, but honestly, he did such a good job to kind of just get back on the gas and get the car out of the way, because he was a sitting duck right there.
He was. Melon Pitch already starting to recover some positions. Down 3, just gained 1. Got 3 more to go until he's back up in P10 where he qualified. So his battle begins. Let's take over a look at Daniel Wright, right on the heels of Andrew Jaski there. Coming up into the corkscrew, and that's going to get very close between the 2 of them. They managed to not hit one another, and Audi lunges for the outside. It may have gotten the pass done. The BMW hanging on for life on the outside. and is able to get out in front of the Audi. Now the other BMW of Nick Schwartz has gotten into the fight, and we saw Andrew Jaski and Daniel Wright there trade positions a little bit. Now he's going to go for a dive on the inside into the final corner, and there is contact. They go door to door on the exit, and it looks like Daniel Wright is going to get out in front, leaving Andrew Jaski and Nick Schwartz in a drag race up the hill into turn 1. And this is going to be very interesting to see how the BMWs handle this. It looks like Nick Schwartz is going to edge out in front, but as we were mentioning earlier, this is a weird double apex corner, but it looks like he's going to be able to hang on to it. Daniel Wright starting to grow a gap, and now it is going to be a battle between Nick Schwartz and Andrew Jaski. Justin Eiston also entering the battle here in the Lamborghini. Going to make this another 3-car battle for 8th place.
Jaski getting freight train just a little bit here at the moment. Eiston obviously has some good pace at the moment. He takes a look on the inside there, but decides to back out. And we've got car 411, which is Melon Pitch, off track, just rejoining now.
Yeah,
Matt
looks like it.
with the fastest lap currently, but it's early days. Given that we have a 20-minute pit window, drivers might have chosen different pit strategies and fuel loads for the beginning, and unfortunately we've also got Cody Barrett turned around further back. He's also rejoining, so there's 2 AMGs that have gone off and come back, and he does look like he's hit the wall there.
Yeah, that does not look pretty. He's not going to be too happy with the damage he just sustained. Looking at Melon Pitches, gets a little bit on the inside there and goes off into the dirt, but doesn't look like when his spin happened he has sustained any damage. Take a look over at Felix Palin right now, trying to put the pressure on Paul Wallenstein. Coming up and around the hill, now down into turn 1. It also looks like the Ferrari of Julio Ortiz is also going to join this battle here. Ice Tin, yellow flag. Not sure what happened, but he gets passed by Andre Lloyd and Max Sonkenlap. Ooh, the Ferrari off wide, and he's gonna lose it, and goes right into the wall.
That is what happens. Sorry, with the dirt here, it's not the sort of grass that you can ride for a while if you keep the wheel straight. It does tend to just spit you right off. So if you do go wide, it's not very forgiving.
And I've seen that happen in person too. A Lamborghini had made the exact same mistake, and yeah, it's just as soon as you get back on the track, the back end wants to be the front end, and there's really nothing you can do about it at that point. New fastest lap out of Andrew Sear, going to be a 1:23.0. We're also going to take a look over here at the battle between Daniel Wright and Stephen Buckley. We've got a train of cars there battling for 9th place behind Daniel Wright. It's going to be Stephen Buckley, Andre Lloyd, and Max Sonkenlap. Actually, just as we're looking at that, Melon Pitch is starting to catch up to his competition, trying to gain some of those positions back after 2 unfortunate incidents, putting him back 9 places in the grid. He's now going to try and get a jump there on Mark. Going to go the long way around. I don't think that's going to work.
It's a difficult corner to go on the outside. You can tell Melon Pitch definitely wants to get past as soon as he can. Mark's run wide and given him the opportunity there, so they're still side by side. This is impressive. Mark's holding it around the outside, but I think Pitch might have got it done now. Mark back on the inside, and Julio Ortiz now on the outside of Mark Ronhosen, so these three really going at it.
That is what you love to see.
Themselves figured out, but as I say that, Ortiz is going on the inside of Grunhuizen again, so Melon Pitch has got out ahead, and they're going too wide into the corkscrew, which never goes well, so Ortiz has completed that move now, so not a great lap for Mark, given 2 places lost there, but a great battle for us to see.
Yeah, we'll see if he's able to close up the gap to Melon Pitch now. And it does look like he is kind of inching towards him, both of these drivers, even with that damaged Ferrari. Very similar pace through some of these corners, although it's only been a few of them. We'll see what the next couple of laps have for us. Let's take a look over at Paul Wallenstein's battle. He's trying to catch up to Eric Gottsacker there. Currently up 4 positions on the day, and currently looking to make that 5. Within 3/10 there when they both run off wide, and we see a repeat of what just happened to the Ferrari a lap ago. And unfortunately, the Porsche is going to go nose first into the wall, the same way that Ferrari that just passed him did a lap ago.
It's so difficult to get back in the right frame of mind as well once you've had an incident like that and try to decide whether to head to the pits to repair damage, whether to get your damage repaired at all. Sometimes you can find that the car still drives reasonably okay. You don't need to, but that did look like a reasonably hard hit. So, yeah, hopefully for Paul he's able to get going again. And you know, Melon Pitch is one of the drivers who's making a good recovery drive at the moment, as you see Jeff Spangler just trying to make the move on Tommy Kogan, but Tommy's a tough customer, so he's not going to roll over easy. Very fast driver.
No, and Jeff Spangler having almost a half-second advantage on Tommy Kogan last lap. We can see the timing comparisons there on screen right now. So it really is just a question of how long Tommy Kogan can hold him off and potentially hang on to a P5 finish for himself. Up 4 on the day. And I'm sure he wants to keep that number as large as possible. We've got a yellow flag, though. Andre Lloyd, it looks like we may have had another repeat of that same accident there at the exit of turn 5, based on where he's trying to rejoin the track. Let's stay focused over here on this battle.
Sort of surprised that that's the one that's getting people, but it is one of the many corners that if you run wide, it does not treat you kindly. And I was just looking back at Cody Barrett's incident, and it did look like he was actually tagged by Julio Ortiz, so he was helped into a spin in that scenario. Yeah, getting very close to making a move on Tommy here. I think he's biding his time, which is the right thing to do. But between the BMW and the Audi, I don't know if Tommy has the upper hand on certain portions of the track where he's able to just kind of keep the BMW behind.
Yeah, but dipping his rears there into the sand makes the wise decision to lift rather than to power through it. Does manage to avoid that same accident again, but does lose a little bit of time to Tommy Kogan as a result.
And Tommy, amazing save there.
No kidding. We got somebody in the chat saying that wall is hungry. That sure seems to be the case.
Yes.
We'll tune back into this here in just a little bit. Daniel Wright and Andrew Jaski starting to get into it in the corkscrew here. Julio Ortiz and Melon Pitch also very close to one another. And actually, as I say that, Julio Ortiz runs off track, and that's going to allow Melon Pitch to get around him. Looks like he overcooked it a little bit on that the death curve and ran off wide. Fortunately, it looks like he managed to avoid putting the car into a wall, but does lose 2 positions. And Melon Pitch gains another one, now only down 6 after 2 accidents. Daniel Wright dips his tires in a little bit on the inside there. Is going to give a bit of breathing room there to Andrew Jaski. Coming around turn 4 now into turn 5. We'll see if we see another repeat of the hungry wall. But it looks like both drivers keeping it there on the track. And Daniel Wright continuing to hold that gap right at 0.4 of a second on Andrew Jaski.
I think the only thing that would make that wall hungrier is if someone painted a hippo on it right now.
May as well put a bullseye on it at this point because everybody's hitting the same spot.
It is wonderful just to see the cars flow through the corkscrew. It's such a satisfying portion of track, pair of corners to drive. Even the entry before you reach the the left-hander really, that you have the curb on the right that you can just fire the car across, and then you're rushing to get on the brakes and chuck the car in, and then you're blind for a good while, so you're just turning knowing where you want the car to end up in the hope that it will go there. So I can't get enough, but I really do love this track.
It is one of my favorites, and it was before I went and saw these cars race in person. But even in the sim world, it does exactly what it does in real life, and it just brings the cars right together and leads to close racing, like what we're seeing happen between Daniel Lund and Michael Randall. He goes for a pass on the death curve and gets that Honda out in front of it. Oh my goodness, let's see a replay of that. That was beautiful.
I think that's what they call forcing the issue.
One of the ballsiest dive bombs I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, he was there. He was well within his right to claim the corner at that point. He was more than alongside and passed. Sorry, Lloyd at that point.
Well, and honestly, hats off to both drivers, with Randall having to take a compromised line, and with Daniel Lund finding some way to get two cars through that corner.
Yeah, it did require a little bit of cooperation from both drivers. And that's what you like to see is a good close racing, but respectful racing.
Absolutely. There's an important distinction to draw there. Man, and there are too many close battles on track for me to keep an eye on here. As we can see, all of those red numbers, 3 of them right now, are people within a half second of each other. Jeff Spangler, Daniel Wright, and Ice Tin putting a lot of pressure on the cars in front of them.
I'm surprised that Tommy is still being able to hold Jeff behind here. As we see, is that Ice Tin on Sunton lap? I believe so.
It is.
So Ice Tin was off track earlier, but do we know if he has any damage?
I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it, but he does manage to get the legs to get out in front of the BMW that outbrakes himself and runs off wide there. And that's going to allow Ice Tin to kind of run away with that one. Daniel Wright also getting very close to Andrew Jaski, excuse me. In fact, let's go ahead and put that on the main screen over here. As he looks at the inside. Andrew Jaski able to hang on to it. And now it is going to be a drag race up the hill. Which one's faster, Audi or BMW? Andrew Jaski is going to have an interesting line around this corner. Having the inside is not as much of an advantage here as it is in other places. And as we can see that, the Audi able to brake a little later, gets out in front of him. But Andrew Jaski hops the sausage curb into the Audi, and I think gets the worst of the exchange. Daniel Wright, just a glancing blow, but the BMW is going to now have to get back out on track. It does not look like he's having a fun time doing it. Let's take a look at Matt Byrne here, right on the heels of Andrew Sear, our race leader at the moment. Coming up the hill into the corkscrew. This ought to be interesting. Looks like Jeff Spangler getting around Tommy Kogan there, off screen. Must have been a big mistake from Tommy, because that is a 2.2 second gap out of nowhere. Julio Ortiz picks up a position on Billy Carlin. And Andrew Sear starting to get himself a little bit of breathing room. Let's look at those last lap comparisons here. Yeah, well, Matt Byrne, 0.4 of a second faster that last lap. We'll check in with these two later. Let's take a look at Max Sunton lap and Ice Tin. And it looks like Stephen Buckley off the track there.
Just taking a look back at that pass from Jeff, and it does look like Tommy either outbraked himself or the car bottomed out, and he did run wide, so it just allowed Jeff through.
Matt Byrne and Andrew Sear getting close to each other once again, coming into the entrance of the corkscrew. I think we need to watch these guys for a lap and see where he's catching him, because it does seem like on that back stretch, that McLaren is a little bit faster than the Porsche, because that's where we saw him catch up last lap as well. Now coming into the second to the last corner here, one more to go.
Just tucked up under the gearbox of that Porsche right now.
No kidding.
It can be terrifying sometimes when you're so close to the car in front. You can't even see past them, or you don't really have a lot of time to anticipate any braking, or you just have to trust the driver ahead. If you've been following them for a while, you'll know how they're driving, where they're braking. You'll have a good feel for it, and it looks like Matt is right in that zone now. Is still yo-yoing a little bit. He's kind of dropping off here and there, and then drawing back up to the back of Andrew. So even if he gets past, it's going to be tight. It won't be over.
No, not at all. And if they continue to do this, it's only a matter of time until they're right on top of each other once again, and we may see a pass. But Andrew Sear doing an amazing job of hanging on to that race lead, with a very, very competent driver right behind him, is still hanging on to both the fastest lap and first place after 13 laps here at Laguna Seca. Let's go ahead and I'm going to add the counter now for mandatory pit stops, as we're about to enter our pit window here. In just about 30 seconds will be when our drivers can enter the pit stop, or the pit lane for their mandatory pit stops. But we'll tune back in with Matt Byrne here in just a little bit. Michael Randall getting very close to Daniel Lund now, coming up the hill into turn 1.
Yeah, I was about to say, it seems as though even though Lund got past, Randall hasn't dropped off the back there, so those two as well, they aren't on with each other for that final podium spot.
Ooh, and the Porsche's going to go off a little bit wide, and that's going to give some breathing room there to Daniel Lund. And the pit window is now open. We should start seeing some drivers go in there. We're just going to mess up the leaderboard for a little bit. But
yeah, you would imagine certainly the drivers who have a little bit of damage will start to think about coming in sooner rather than later. We were getting a bit of a train for 12th, 13th, and 14th places. That's Andre Lloyd, Andrew Jaski, and Melon Pitch, but Pitch looks like he's dropped off back a little bit there. Still Jaski looking to make up a few spots again after his incident with Daniel in turn 2. It's turn 2, let's say.
Yeah. And sure enough, looking at the cars in the pits, the 3 that are in there right now are all in at least somewhat visibly damaged. So I'm sure they're going to be getting that bodywork fixed right about now.
Yeah, I think those were almost, I'm going to say all victims of the wall, but that might not be true. Certainly, Paul Wallenstein was one.
Michael Randall getting very close to Daniel Lund again. We'll take a look at that here in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that right about now.
So between these two, Randall might think about pitting sooner just to be in clear air, but he might also prefer just to be chasing at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on with strategy there.
Millen Pitch into the pits now, as is Cody Barrett. It'll be interesting to see what the race leaders decide to do here with their pit stop strategies. If somebody's going to go for an undercut, or if somebody's just going to stay on those tires as long as they can and basically just qualify for the remainder of the race. But rough exit there for Michael Randall is going to give Daniel Lund some room to relax just a little bit. coming down into turn 1. We'll see if he's able to close that gap back up. Max Sunkenlap and Felix Palin starting to get into it.
So for anyone who's been driving the Porsche for a while, they'll probably be, I guess, more adept at dealing with the fuel load reduction, but it does tend to, for anyone who doesn't know, the fuel tank is in the front. So as the fuel load goes down, it begins to relieve the weight off of the front end, which does tend to make the car behave differently. So that's an instance where, you know, for Randall, going in and taking a pit, taking fresh tires might actually help. But for anyone, I'd say for Andrew Sear and Matt Byrne as well, potentially, they just want to stay out for as long as possible if they're at the front, because if they pit sooner, then they risk dropping themselves into traffic, which will not do their overall time any good.
Well, and something interesting seems to have happened here. Andrew Sear is now in 4th place.
Yes.
Oh, he spun it in the corkscrew. He managed to avoid a collision, but right where Max Sunkenlap is going through there, lost the back end of the car, and is down 3 positions now.
And just like that, it can change so quickly.
Well, he now has some work to do in order to get back up into the race lead here, and apparently there was a stop and go that just got cleared by the number 19 car that I missed. That's going to be Paul Wallenstein. Ooh, and Max Sunkenlap under fire. The Porsche almost gets away with going around the outside there, but is able to get the Lexus back in front of him. And the way that Porsche is just looking on either side of the car for any way to get around, you can tell he's starting to get impatient. Take a look up at Michael Randall and Daniel Lund, still battling it out between these two. Both of them putting on impressive drives today. Michael Randall up a position, Daniel Lund up 4. And man, those two are very similar in pace around some of these corners. Let's see what the laps say now. Well, Michael Randall behind had the slight advantage in that last lap. Set a PB in Sector 2.
Yeah, I was just looking back at Andrew Sear's incident, and it was exactly what I was expecting, which is that as you go over the rise or start coming down into the corkscrew, if you're still kind of turning the car to the left, it unweights a little bit and will just wash out completely. And the worst thing about that is you end up facing uphill, and it's a very awkward spot to get out of. So he did well to recover that.
Ooh, I'm not sure what's happening there. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but Michael Randall gets a huge jump on Daniel Lund and is able to go on the outside of him through the corkscrew to make that pass happen and move up into P1. Or P2, excuse me.
Yeah, that was surprising. Do you think Daniel had like a missed shift or something?
I'm not sure. I'll go back and take a look here in the replay and see what happened. I don't know if he just got a bad exit or what had happened there. I'm gonna go find out. I'm watching it back right now. So let's see, he gets a little bit out wide on turn 6 there, dips himself into the sand. Oh, and actually, I see him putting the blinker on. That makes me wonder if it was an intentional pass there that he just let him by. That's what it looks like to me.
Perhaps he thinks he can sit in there and just tick off laps and take the place back later on. I mean, some people are happy to do that.
Interesting decision for sure. Felix Palin here and Max Sunkenlap still at it and actually closing the gap to the next pack of cars. Stephen Buckley also putting Billy Carlin under some pressure here. Let's take a look over at that battle. Billy Carlin in the AMG out in front, Stephen Buckley in the Audi behind.
And yeah, neither of those cars have pitted yet, so...
As you say that, Daniel Wright is going to head into the pits.
Yeah, so we've only seen one stop and go, which is both good and surprising, because that pit entry does tend to catch people out a little bit. You have to slow quite rapidly and get it down to speed to then turn left through the pit lane. But I mean, I've had it before where I've got it down to speed and then been in second gear, and you don't have a pit limiter in second gear, unfortunately, so end up speeding afterwards. I do hope that we don't see too many penalties, because it does ruin the rhythm of the race a little bit.
Just a little bit, but certainly not stopping all of the drivers. Mellon Pitch, granted, he's on a staggered leaderboard right now, still out there after two very, very rough incidents early on in the race. I don't even think he made it to lap 3 without an incident. But Daniel Lund still putting the pressure on Michael Randall here after that, after letting him pass, from what we can tell. I'll definitely want to ask him about that after the race. And Andrew Sear starting to close the gap up to them. Only a matter of time with his pace until he is caught up to him. It'll be interesting to see how he gets around him. At least looking at their best laps, Andrew Sear does have the advantage, albeit not by much. If we were to compare it against Michael Randall here last lap, Andrew Sear just shy of 0.6 of a second faster.
It's going to be interesting to see. We've got 9th and 10th places both in the pits together. So Justin Eiston came in, and I don't know if Andre Lloyd was reacting to the fact that Eiston had come in and wanted to stick with him. 11th place also in, but I think so that's Stephen Buckley. I think the gap between those cars is a little bit bigger.
We'll see. I'm watching the pit lane right now. Ice Tin and Andre Lloyd still up on the jacks. It looks like Andrew Sear is going to go ahead and go into the pits now here at the halfway mark.
Yep, Tommy Kogan in as well, so we're seeing a big swath of pit stops right now. Andre Lloyd off the jacks.
Looks like Ice Tin is the first one to leave.
Yeah. Okay, so there was a bit of a gap between
that and Andre is in for quite a long pit stop here.
Ah, right. So they went up at the same time, but Andre must have had a bit of damage to repair.
He was 11.5 seconds longer in the pit, so yeah, probably a bit of aero damage he was repairing there.
So Matt Byrne, as I said before, seems to be happy to lead out from the front for as long as he can. Daniel Lund back in front of Randall there now. So it seems as though they will be exchanging places throughout this race.
Yep, Jeff Spangler into the pits now, leaving just 5 other cars remaining to get in. That's going to be Matt Byrne, Daniel Lund, Michael Randall, Nick Schwartz, and Max Sunkenlap. And just 7.5 minutes left to do so. I'm sure they're aware of that. But it looks like Matt Byrne about to come up to some traffic here. Oh, and a yellow flag on Julio Ortiz. Looks like he is rough exit there at the corkscrew. I'm trying to, there we go, got the camera over to him. We'll see if he sustained any damage. Does not, looks like he's okay.
I'm just looking around for any battles for position. Felix Payan and Melon Pitch are starting to come closer together. Melon Pitch now having been into the pits and potentially repaired any damage that he did have. He seems to be drawing in. It's gone from over 2 seconds to 1.7 seconds quite rapidly, so I think we're about to see something going off between them.
It'll definitely be interesting to see. Right now sitting in P11, only one position down on where he qualified after losing several positions twice. Definitely having a great recovery drive today.
Yeah, I mean, that's what perseverance gets you. As I said before, like it can be really difficult to get back into that headspace, but if you're able to just forget ever going off track, or you know, get back into the rhythm, start setting laps, you can find yourself just slowly gravitating back up the grid if you have some good pace in the car and between the steering wheel and the seat.
Well, and even at that, and you're absolutely correct. I'm a big fan of finishing my races because generally you end up, well, scoring points instead of not. But on that note, even if you had joined this race in last place and finished it, you would have gained 3 positions by now because we started with 22 cars and we are now down to 19 in the race. And Michael Randall going to be the first one in to the pits between him and Daniel Lund. Going for the undercut. We'll see how Daniel Lund chooses to respond here. But Melon Pitch starting to catch up to Felix Payan now.
Stops on his marks. I can't see that he's on the jacks, but I think he must be.
Melon Pitch definitely has the pace advantage here. Granted, it was a bit of a rough lap there for Felix Payan, but 7 tenths, almost 8 tenths gained on him last lap by Melon Pitch. It looks like he's continuing to grow that gap down. Last lap it was a little over 2 seconds, now down to 1. And he's looking to get P10 back. Max Sunken lap into the pits now. And the number 301 car is going to pick up a stop and go 30. That's going to be Michael Randall for speeding in the pit lanes.
That is gutting because definitely wanted to see what would happen between Randall and Daniel Lund there.
Yep, and a big mistake out of Felix Payan is going to put him out braking himself into the corkscrew. Is going to allow for a pass by Melon Pitch there and put Andrew Jaski now on his heels. And as you were saying, that's definitely an upset in the battle between him and Lund that we were not expecting or hoping to see. Both him and Matt Byrne into the pits now.
Gonna look back and look at that. Third, fourth, it's coming down. It looked like he got his speed down. He did what he said. He was in second gear, so he came around the corner. He geared down, but he didn't gear down to her first, so he brought it down to 50 for the pit board, and then went back on the gas immediately. Once you know what you've done, it's heartbreaking because you can't turn the clock back. So yeah, unfortunately, that's what happened to Randall there.
I'm very curious to see where he'll come out after serving that penalty. Fortunately, Laguna Seca, not one of the more punishing tracks to get a stop and go, but that is going to be an end to his at least his top five finish hopes there. It may even be enough to put him back in P10 behind Melon Pitch. We'll see what happens. Andrew Sear getting close to getting another pass. It's going to be Michael Randall in front of him.
Yeah, and I wonder if Randall will fight as hard now, knowing that he has the stop and go. I mean, Andrew will be able to see that on the board, and that'll sort of inform him as to whether he should be pushing super hard to make the pass or not. But obviously he doesn't know when Randall's planning to take that stop and go, so.
Well, it doesn't look like he's going to do it this lap. He's going to run it out as long as he can.
It's baby blue Porsche on baby blue Porsche action here.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I don't think Randall is holding Sear up too much.
No, it doesn't seem to be.
Well, we've got all sorts of stuff happening here. There was a yellow flag waved on pitch there, and he drops back 2 positions, it looks. It looks like a rough turn 1 there for Nick Schwartz is going to allow Daniel Wright through.
14th and 15th places are Andre Lloyd and Stephen Buckley, and they're getting very close to one another again, so I think that's going to be a battle to see in the near future.
Right now, closest battle on track is going to be between Daniel Wright and Nick Schwartz here. Both of them coming up into some traffic after the corkscrew. And that's where this stage of the race is going to get very interesting, is now that the pit window is closed, the track is pretty staggered. Not everybody on the same lap anymore. So we're going to start seeing some traffic, and it looks like we got a yellow flag for Andre Lloyd. Not a big
Randall's
one, loses 6 seconds. And I see that Randall now just now into the pits. Thank you, Tom.
As it stands, Andrew Jusky, if he is able to get past Felix Payan, and also they're both about to pass Randall in the pits, I think that's going to bring Randall out in, I'm going to say 14th place probably. That is, yeah, that was a hefty penalty there for him.
And especially after a very, very strong drive today, both in qualifying and especially during the race, that has got to be some heartbreak for Michael Randall.
Yeah, so that does put him 13th, but on the flip side, he's now got almost 20 minutes, around about 20 minutes to see how many positions he can make back, and that will be interesting for us. He's able to bring some of those positions back to him.
A gap I want to bring everybody's attention to is the number next to Andrew Sear's car number. Oh, we've got a car off there. Felix Palant loses it in the corkscrew and is going to go into the wall. Let's see if we can get the instant replay there and see what happened. Yeah, there it is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what happens, and then it's you don't really want to back up too much, and it's difficult to get the car turned around and not have it bogged down. It's an awful spot to find yourself in. So let's see, he has got it facing the right way, and he's got it back on track now, so that's good.
And And then just while you were checking on that, Nick Schwartz and Daniel Wright, excuse me, have to avoid Julio Ortiz. Has a one of the very similar incident like we've been seeing over there, but manages to not put it into the wall. The hungry wall may have had its fill for the race. We got a bit of traffic here in turn 2 and now 3. And that's just Daniel Lund getting around some traffic there.
Yeah, so Matt Byrne's still up front, and Andrew Sear now is recovered to 3rd place with 2.3 seconds currently, at least on my screen, up to Daniel Lund. So after his issue in the corkscrew, it does look like Andrew will be able to certainly be on the podium, barring any other issues, or and maybe get back into 2nd place here.
He definitely has a shot. He has narrowed that gap of 2.5 seconds down to just 2 seconds. And we're looking at the comparison data between Matt Byrne and Andrew Sear here. Let's take a look at Daniel Lund and Andrew Sear. Looks like last lap there, Daniel Lund has a slight advantage, but still that gap is getting smaller. Let's see what this lap looks like here. 124.4 out of Daniel Lund to 123.7 from Andrew Sear.
I have to say that Matt Byrne has done a very good job at just letting this race come to him. Obviously, he's profited from Andrew's mistake, but he hasn't made any mistakes. You know, that's how you win races, is by just being fast and consistent. And he's been pretty metronomic.
Especially. We've got a couple of 3-car battles starting to emerge here. Mellon Pitch right now trying to catch up to Max Sunkenlap, has Michael Randall a second behind him and closing. I'm sure we'll see that pass happen here pretty quickly.
Andre Lloyd currently in the final points paying position, but looking to get one more, drawing up to the back of Stephen Buckley.
Ooh, interesting here. Matt Byrne now holds the fastest lap of the session with a 122.6 dead. Is a little bit faster, actually 4/10ths faster than Andrew Sear's best lap.
They're already cut over you there. Randall was just trying to throw it around the outside of Mellon Pitch, and unfortunately for him it did not work. He got on the dirt and was very, I'm not going to say lucky, I think it was more skill that he was able to keep the car from rotating and saved it from going into the wall. So he'll live to fight another day. And
but then Mellon Pitch makes the same mistake.
Wide, so that gives Randall a slightly easier pass heading into the corkscrew. And for a second there, I saw a bit of closing speed between the two cars. My heart jumped because I thought Mellon was gonna find the back of the Porsche.
It certainly could have been messy for sure. Take a look at Andre Lloyd here, closing the gap to Stephen Buckley in 14th, looking to earn himself another point.
Appin, finally has taken the fastest lap away from Andrew Sear, so not only is he leading the race, we've got a car around in a corkscrew, I believe, that's 4 row 2, that's Cody Barrett.
And again, the same as we've seen, just facing uphill, very tough spot to get turned around, especially considering you have no visibility on who's coming around the corkscrew. It does look like, unfortunately, he sustained a bit of front damage.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You can, as a driver, you can look at the relative times and you can try to look at the track map, but you don't really see people coming up. Sometimes you don't get very much warning, so you can be sitting there for a while just trying to figure out whether you're going to end up cutting someone off or causing an incident. So yeah, tough.
Max Sunkenlap now under pressure from Michael Randall, now sitting in P11, looking for at least a P10 finish here. He's got 12 minutes remaining on the clock to do so. And at almost a second a lap faster than Max Sunkenlap on the previous lap. I can't imagine this battle is going to take too much longer. We'll see how much of a fight Mac is able to put up. He, of course, is not obligated to get out of the way. This is a battle for position with not much race left to go, less than 12 minutes now. I'd be defending tooth and nail at this point.
Oh yeah, 100%. Position's a position, and these are points-paying positions as well, so every little helps. Just looking up from Randall forward, after Max Sunkenlap, if he's able to get past, he'll have Justin Eiston as the next car, who's had since we last saw him, he seems to have had quite a quiet race. I think just found himself in a pocket of a few seconds ahead, a few seconds behind.
Does look like Michael Randall's going to find his way around there.
Tommy Kogan, at least on my screen, was dropping down, so I'm not sure what happened there.
Oh, Michael Randall taking a very creative line down the corkscrew there. And that does kind of get Max Sunkenlap a bit closer to him. Let's take a look up here. Looks like Andrew Sear now starting to get a little bit closer to Daniel Lund.
So just confirmation, Tommy Kogan went full Tokyo drift just before the right-hander, the second to last corner essentially, and that was what dropped him from 5th to 7th place behind Daniel Wright and Nick Schwartz.
See a yellow flag waving, but no cars off track. Let's throw up. Let's see here. Those are the last laps from Andrew Sear and Daniel Lund there. And Daniel Lund has a 3/10 advantage on the last lap, but that gap is closing, and very interesting and not what I expected to see. Max Sunkenlap is starting to close the gap to Michael Randall here.
Yeah, I mean, he might be using Michael as a benchmark and just getting dragged along. So if he's able to stick to the back of the Porsche for a little while in the Lexus, affectionately known as the Rexus, he might be able to use that to turn it into a 3-car battle.
Especially as you were mentioning earlier on in the broadcast too, that Porsche is only going to get harder to drive as the weight comes off the front axle as the fuel tank drains, especially with less than 10 minutes remaining here. A little bit wide there from Max Sunkenlap, but with so little time remaining, that car is running on very little fuel load, and that front end has got to feel very light right about now.
Yeah, exactly, and particularly late on a race, it doesn't make sense to drop off the back of somebody if because all it takes is a little mistake. If they run wide and you could have been 5/10 closer and they get back on track in front instead of behind you, you'll be ruining it. So I mean, it's a race at the end of the day. Every little counts. Nick Schwartz does seem to have dropped off the back of Daniel Wright now, and Tommy, it's kind of equal gaps from Wright to Schwartz and to Kogan. So it's 3.2 from Schwartzbach to Kogan. So I'm not sure if Tommy will be able to bring that gap back down. Although it does seem to be coming down just a little bit. Maybe just not quick enough.
Michael Randall now has his next victim in the crosshairs here. Ice Tin is going to have him basically mounted to the back of that Lamborghini. Runs wide there in turn 7, and that is going to allow the Porsche through, but the Lamborghini is not going down without a fight. Staying hooked onto the back of that Porsche there. Good turn there. Porsche runs a bit wide. Now coming up into the corkscrew. God, you can see just how much elevation change there is when we're watching the onboard there of Michael Randall. I believe it's 140 feet from top to bottom.
Something, I can never remember. It's several stories or...
Well, so I remember at a Rouge is 10
fields.
stories almost. Well, the corkscrew not quite as much. It's definitely greater than 100 feet though.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to visualize, but I'm sure if you were in it, you would you'd blink twice.
Yeah, having stood at the bottom of it in person and looked up to the top, watching cars come over it, it's a pretty intense experience.
So, looks like you've just picked up on the battle between Daniel Lund and Andrew Sear again. So that gap has come down very rapidly in the last couple laps, and now Andrew is within striking distance, and I mean you can see it very well from that camera angle. It's ominous.
So if I'm not mistaken, the Honda has the rear view camera in the cockpit there. So that's pretty much, this is what Andrew Sear is seeing in his rear view mirror. Or excuse me, Daniel Lund is seeing in his rear view mirror. How about onboard of Andrew Sear here?
He's got a face full of NSX at the moment. Just rolling it through the sweeping left-hander. You have to coast as much as you can through there. Daniel Lund going just a little bit wide, but that's one of the few spots where you can afford to go wide and run it out and not really pay a huge price. I don't know what it is about that corner. It's a little bit more forgiving. Going down into turn 2, the double apex. Both very nice and smooth through there. So Daniel Lund keeping Andrew Sear honest at the moment. Just not letting the Porsche affect him too much. It's easy to let the driver behind get into your headspace and, you know, ruffle the feathers.
Well, and especially with less than 4 minutes remaining here, maybe 3 more laps here at Laguna Seca, the pressure is definitely going to be on Andrew Sear, because he's going to feel like he needs to get those positions back. But Daniel Lund having quite the drive today, 4 positions up on the day for a P2 finish when he did not qualify in podium. His heart's got to be racing right about now. And actually, I'm going to take us away from this here for just a second, because it looks like there's some drama between Melon Pitch and Max Suntenlap. Melon Pitch gaining a position on Suntenlap just a corner ago.
Yeah, again, Mac doesn't look like he wants to give it away just yet. He's probably thinking about trying to get back at Melon Pitch.
There's a look at the position delta for you guys. Actually, a lot of upward mobility on the track is almost certainly due to the fact that we've had a couple of DNFs. That's what I was saying earlier. Sometimes all you got to do is finish to gain positions. Paul Wallenstein being the poster child here, gaining 3.
Yeah, and Randall obviously with his 30-second stop and go has dropped more than anybody, but that makes perfect sense.
Well, and he's still going to score points on the day, maybe not as many as he was looking at earlier, but Summers definitely better than none.
Second and third places just getting past Andre Lloyd in the form of traffic there, but Andre did a very good job of just putting his car to the side. He doesn't have he also is in quite a big pocket of air at the moment, so he could afford to drop a bit of time, let the leaders through.
Looks like Daniel Lund may be able to hang on to second place. Andrew Sear is able to narrow the gap every now and then, but it seems like rubber banding is going to be the way this race between the two of these drivers is going to go, because every time Andrew's able to get close, Daniel Lund is able to fend him off. Both of these drivers have pretty remarkable pace. Let's just to draw a little bit of a perspective here, I'm going to put the numbers up on screen for you so you can see what their personal best laps are. Daniel Lund, 122.847. Andrew Sear, 122.827. Just 2/100ths of a second separating these two drivers.
Yeah, Andrew doesn't have a huge upper hand, he's not grabbing big chunks of time in any part of the track. And Daniel is just driving very calmly and very composed at the moment. We have seen him make a couple mistakes during the race, and certainly there's been points where Andrew has gained a second over the course of a couple laps. So I think Matt Byrne has just gone on to his final lap, which will be the final lap for the race and for the field.
Well, the pressure is definitely on Andrew Sear now. Has a half-second gap to the car in front and no time to make that pass happen. This is going to be the race to watch here as we start their final lap here at Laguna Seca. 42 laps in, 1 hour of driving. It's going to be a couple of minutes extra for some of these drivers. And we have seen a lot happen. I'm going to throw up the position delta again because it has been a very interesting race and a very successful race for a lot of people. There's that again. Really, Michael Randall suffering the worst of it, but really only down 5 positions on the day. That is not a bad drive.
No, he's made a good recovery for sure. I don't think it'll be enough now for him to get Andrew Jaski. In fact, I'm pretty dead certain that he won't. It's just a bit too much. Now he's getting into the faster cars in the field. So Matt has finished, taken the win here at Laguna Seca. And it does look like Daniel Lund will be able to hold off Andrew Sear for second place.
Yeah, there goes Matt Byrne with some celebratory donuts in the runoff at turn 1. Huge congratulations to Daniel Lund for a hard-fought second place there. Andrew Sear with a pretty strong recovery drive after some unfortunate spinning in the corkscrew still manages to finish on the podium. Looks like he's going to go join Matt Byrne for a little post-race kiss there. Looks like another Porsche is going to join the pack. But that is also going to be Jeff Spangler in P4. Daniel Wright is going to finish in P5. Nick Schwartz is going to come down the hill into the runoff here to finish P6. Tommy Kogan going to finish in P7. Andrew Jaski looks like he's getting ready to come around the second to final bend there, looking at an 8th place finish. Michael Randall.
Just watching Randall, and he made an incredible save there because he still hasn't finished just yet. He still needs to cross the line, so he's going to be okay because he's got no one behind him, so he can. I think someone needs to tell him that he needs to cross the line.
Yep, he sure does. But he's going to be the last car to cross the line. Might as well get his money's worth. Oh, and there we go. Crosses the line at a 90-degree angle. You love to see it. But we're going to wait for the session to tick over, and we'll take a look at the final standings for the race. My goodness, what a race. Tom, how you feeling?
A little exhausted, but no, that was a very good race between all drivers, and we saw a lot of fluctuation, and it's I raced this track with another league and some of the same drivers actually last night, and it's how do I put it? It's mentally tiring. Like it's. You know, it puts quite a lot of strain on you just to get to the end of the race. But yeah, very good one.
Yeah, that was a fun race to watch. Here is again a look at your finishing grid. Here it is going to be race winner is going to be Matt Byrne. Very hard fought, and he definitely had the pace to show for it at the end of the race there. We're going to see Daniel Lund in P2, Andrew Sear P3, Jeff Spangler in P4, Daniel Wright in P5, Nick Schwartz in P6, Tommy Kogan in P7, Andrew Jaski in P8, Michael Randall in P9, and Ice Tin to round out the top 10. There is the rest of the finishing grid there for you. And that is going to be our race here at Laguna Seca. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who was able to join us for the race. I certainly had fun broadcasting it here from the commentaries booth. We had close racing really throughout the entire race, whether it was because people were trying to recover after a bad accident or simply just because the pace was so similar with many of the drivers, led to some close battles and some exciting racing for the entire hour here, all 43 laps here at Laguna Seca. But that is going to do it for us tonight. Next week, we will be at Watkins Glen for the season finisher here at Apollo Racing Club for our red, white, and blue all over mini summer series. And massive thank you, as always, to Apollo Racing Club for letting us put this on. My name is Matt McAdams. Joining me in the commentary booth tonight was Thomas Castellani. Massive thank you to him for the help. And that is going to do it for us tonight. Join us next week. We hope to see you. Click the follow button if you haven't already so you can get notifications when we go live. Of course, we're here every Saturday night, but we've got racing all nights of the week, everything from IndyCar to Assetto Corsa F1. So if you like what you're seeing here, definitely give us a follow. There's plenty more for you to see. And for tonight, we will see you all next time. Thanks for joining us here at Apollo Racing Club.